morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, April 14th. It's 10 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. I'm in New York. Welcome to all you seasonal allergy sufferers like me. It hit me yesterday. As many of you know, I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations internationally to help them achieve measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to be a place where we can elevate the profession of sales, where salespeople can come and hang out, network with each other, get great information, ask questions, get coaching. And of course, if you've been with us at all before, you know, at 10 a.m. Eastern every Friday, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. If you're watching us live, please say hello in the comments. If you're watching us live on Facebook and have not connected your account to StreamYard, it's just going to say Facebook user, so please include your name. And if you're watching us on the replay, please put replay in the comments. And finally, if you have any questions for our guest today, excuse me, there's those allergies. Please put your questions in the comments and I'll be sure to relay them. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to welcome a man who I not only consider an expert in his field, but a friend, Dean Forbes. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing, man?
Doing great, and I'm so glad to see you. Thank you in advance, by the way. You graciously filled in. I had a guest who wrote to me on Tuesday and said, sorry, but I'm going to be on a plane. By the way, after I booked you, and thank you for that, he wrote to me, goes, oh, I'm not going to be on a plane. I said, well, sorry, my friend, too late. We've got Dean Forbes, and I'm happy about it. And good morning, Edward Henry. Edward Henry says, good morning, Jeff and Dean, another great sales trainer. All right. So, Dean, could you maybe give us the 2 or 3 minute version of your background, what brought you up to this point?
Yeah, sure. So the 2-minute version is I've spent my last 20 years of my career in profession and business in service-based sales of some kind. A lot of people who know me know that I spent a lot of time in the beauty industry, working with those service providers and business owners. And since that, I've expanded into finance, construction, roofing construction, to believe it or not, as well as internet service provider and home security, as well as retail and marketing. And also, let's see, I think I've done this now across 8 industries. And most of the time has been spent essentially selling, but also training and coaching other service providers and salespeople in all of those fields. And what has brought me to this point now is like maybe a year and a half ago, Jeff, I finally distilled down what it is that I actually do. We might be talking about that in this interview in terms of all the pivots and things like that since COVID, but I'm finally in a place where I now have distilled what I do and coined it even, and now I'm teaching that to the world. Yep,
I'm just writing down the word pivots because we've all had to do some pivoting since COVID. You're not only a sales trainer and coach, you're the founder of the EPEX Academy, and you teach ASQ. So we're going to start with those things. When I saw EPEX, I automatically thought, Dean must have spelled the name of his company wrong. It must be Apex, but you said no. Right? What is EPEX? What is the EPEX Academy?
Yeah. So the way I call it is it's EPEX. So what happens is the way I came about that is one of the things I've always pursued in my life, Jeff, is personal excellence. And when I work with other service providers and sales professionals, I'm looking to extract the excellence from them. Like, what is the most excellent thing I can bring out of you so you can bring that to the world? And so EPEX literally stands for extracting personal excellence. That's it.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I know you do that not only in your business, but in your life. I know you're constantly working out. You got bigger guns than me, my friend. There we go. There's a real man. And so the thing that you really focus on is ASQ. So I think the best place to start is, what is ASQ? I know a lot of acronyms, but that's not what I'm familiar with.
Right. So this is not an acronym that anybody else will know unless you come through me and you learn it at this point. And so ASQ was born from me really taking a look at what it is that I have been doing and how I've been training and coaching and actually helping, clients hit their milestones. And a lot of times that comes down to, how do you get a prospect to realize that your offer is the best thing for them? Well, that's through questioning. So ASQ literally stands for the art and science of questioning. And it's all about putting the humanity back in the sales process, where it's focused on psychology and ethical selling. It works with human behavior instead of against it.
I love
that is asked.
So how long have you been teaching ASQ?
So coined as ASQ just the last year, but I've been teaching the principles in ASQ for a long time. at least the last 15 years. Again, this is the distillation of what I've been teaching down to ASQ. And now what happens is, Jeff, I get to refine it to what I now know that it is, if that makes sense.
It does perfectly. And by the way, Edward Henry says, from B to C selling, beauty to construction. I love it.
Yeah.
I do too, Edward. So you've been teaching this for a long time, even though you might have not called it that. What's been the impact of ASQ for yourself and for your clients?
Well, if it's okay with everybody else, I'll do a little bit of bragging here. So with my own personal sales and the clients that I've helped over the last 15 years, it's about $270 million in sales that have been generated because of that. But more importantly, Jeff, the impact has been a transformation of people's lives in terms of like building their confidence, understanding how to actually get beneath the surface with your prospect and not just serve them at a surface level. It's about building those relationships that last a long time. You and I were just talking before we got on, and a lot of my business is still fueled by referrals. Well, that's not happening if you're not impacting people's lives, not just on the money sense, but on the life sense, right? What I have this mantra that I focus on, which is like, do, have, be framework. And what that means is even when I close on a prospect, it's like, okay, so if you achieve everything that we work on, what will you be able to do? And when you're able to do those things, what will that allow you to have? And when you can do those things and you're allowed to have those things, who will you become? Do, have, be. And the be part is by far the most fulfilling part for me.
Got it. So why do you think it is? And I'm assuming that you have a similar experience to me because we both deal with similar types of people. Why is it that so many salespeople think it's all about the presentation or being a strong closer, and they just don't get that if you just have great conversations and ask questions, that your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to do business with you? Why don't more salespeople do that?
I believe what I've seen is that it's fueled by fear and doubt. In other words, if you take up all the oxygen in a room, then the other person doesn't get a chance to express themselves to you and tell you anything negative. And so what people are thinking about, they think they're thinking about the prospect, but really you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about saving face. You're thinking about being popular. You're thinking about being liked. You're thinking about your status. You're thinking about, you don't want to be invulnerable in any way, shape, or form. And so you think that if you sound more intelligent, right? Because people are under the impression that people buy when they understand you. But the truth is people buy when they feel understood by you. And unfortunately, I got to say, it's probably about 5% of salespeople and service providers who really understand that concept right now.
Yeah, so they're constantly pitching. That they walk in. Thank you so much for your time, which I never advise people to say. That's a bad way to start out a meeting. And then they, I'm sure your time is very valuable. Let me just get right to why I'm here. Here's why Jeff Goldberg and Associates is the greatest training company or coaching company in the world, and why you should use us. And my experience is you can see people leave the room. They're still there physically, but mentally they're gone. Their eyes glaze over, and they can't wait to get. They're checking their watch. To me, I mean, that's why my program is called Conversational Selling Skills. It's just about having great conversations.
Great conversations.
Yep. And as you and I think agree, great conversations come from being a good questioner.
You have to be a good questioner to have great conversations. No question about it. You never run out of things to say if you understand the right questions to ask. And so that should be standard. This is the timeless way to sell, to be honest.
Yeah, I used to struggle on dates, to keep a conversation going until I figured out I don't have to be brilliant. All I have to do is ask good questions and shut up and listen and let people talk. Most people love the sound of their own voice, me included, no doubt about it. But it's really about letting the other person shine. And my belief is if you ask the right questions, and I think you agree, Dean, if you ask the right questions and listen actively, your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help
everything. Never known it not to work.
Yep, exactly right. So where do you see this going in the next 5, 10, maybe even 20 years? We're hearing a lot about AI and how that's going to take over the world. I don't think it's going to replace salespeople, at least anytime soon. But where do you see this question-based selling going in the next 5 to 15 years?
So for me, Jeff, I see ask as becoming the timeless selling model. And I want to tell you why I'm saying that. It doesn't matter, because this is something that's based in psychological principle, which means it doesn't matter how many things change. when you're asking the question, you're the one that's going to be in control. Now, ask focuses on 3 specific areas, by the way. Okay. Ask focuses on asking the right questions at the right time. That's pillar number 1. Right question, right time. The second pillar is tonality, how you ask the question, right? It focuses on how you ask the question, meaning with a verbal pause. Do you lower your voice? Is there a doubtful tone? Is it a concerned tone? Is it a curious tone? Right? So you need to know which tone to be in. It's not manipulative, but you have to have a conversation that makes sense, that attracts the person. And the third pillar is the visual cues. I just told a bunch of salespeople the other day, I was working with Kinetic, and I said, do you understand that even when I'm on the phone, they say, how visual cues work if you're closing somebody on the phone? And I said, well, do you understand that even when I'm on the phone and a person can't see me, they have an imagination. So when I go, so is it more important for you to be here with the price, or is it the results you're going to get? And I do this visual cue for myself, but the person can hear that in my voice. They can see it in their mind when I'm doing that. And so the visual cues you use, whether you're on the phone and they can't see you, but especially when they can see you, are super important, especially if you present from stage or you're presenting in a boardroom or something like that. Your visual cues are everything. So that's right question, right time, the tone that you ask it with, and the visual cues that you use. That's never going to change no matter what.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I was coaching one of my clients the other day, and we're doing it via Zoom, and we're role playing. And I suggested to him that he record himself and watch himself back, because his facial expressions did not match the things you were saying.
Right.
And, I agree with you 100%. Even if somebody can't see you, even if you're on the phone, the way you look and gesture and things, it affects your tone of voice and your tonality and the way you're coming across. And it's why I always suggest that people smile when they're cold calling.
Always smile when you're cold calling.
It's the oldest saying in the book, except there's a reason, because when there's a smile on your face, there's a smile on your voice. It's hard to sound pissed off or upset or anything.
When you're smiling, exactly.
I know I look stupid when I'm doing this, but I literally put a smile on my face when I'm on the phone with people, because people can hear that.
Yep.
So could not agree more. So what problem does ASQ ultimately solve?
So the problem that ASQ ultimately solve is this. You will get to go beneath the surface, not just to uncover the problems that your prospect has, but to help them find root causes to the problems that they're having, so you can find a solution to help them solve it. And here's what that ultimately does. The ultimate thing about getting below the surface with your prospect is this. You will diffuse and eliminate objections oftentimes before they even come up. You will not get the weak brush off of, I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. Just send me the proposal. Okay. And you will not have to chase your prospects anymore. They will chase you. So ultimately, if you can get below the surface to really understand what the prospect's problem is as they perceive it right now, and also guide them to discover what their real root problem is that they didn't know that they have, not only does your value to them go up the wazoo at that point, but they are put in a headspace where they are persuading themselves to take your offer, as opposed to you trying to convince them.
Yeah. When they convince themselves, it's obviously true. When we tell them,
that is what
scumbag salespeople who are obviously lying to them, trying to take their money. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Good morning, Bruce Caseman. Glad that you're here today. Good morning, Larry Weiss. You're going to be very happy in a minute because you had a question. We're going to ask Dean that question. But you mentioned ethical before.
Yes.
What do you mean by ethical selling? Just telling the truth?
No, it's not just about telling the truth. Actually, it's more about acting in the best interest of your prospect all the time, even if you lose a sale, because that's not the best thing for them. And the reason why I had to include ethical, Jeff, is because psychology could be manipulative, right? And so I put it like having a sword, or let's just say a candle. You can use a candle to light the way, or you can burn down a house. Well, what I teach and ask is just as great or as dangerous, depending on who's wielding the sword, right? And so, if your intent is to serve at the highest level of excellence in the best interest of your prospect, then ask it becomes a brilliant tool. But I wouldn't lie to people and tell them that you can't use the same tools to manipulate someone if your intent is unpure.
Got it. Absolutely.
That's the reason.
Yep. You brought up something else a second ago. You said something that spurred a question in my mind. sending proposals. What's your take on sending proposals? I speak to salespeople all the time, like I know you do. Yeah, I sent the proposal and they went dark. I sent the proposal and they stopped returning my call. I sent the proposal, they stopped returning my emails. What's your take on that?
So first of all, I'll say it right now, there's nothing wrong with sending a proposal. There's something wrong with sending a proposal in the dark or blindly. So in other words, if the first thing the person says, just send me the proposal and I'll take a look at it, don't just say, okay, I'll send you the proposal and I'll talk to you. I mean, what are you going to put in the proposal, right? So to me, I say, hey, you know what, Jeff, I'm totally fine with sending your proposal. However, I'm not even really sure if I can help you yet. And so I need to learn a little bit more about you and your company and your current situation right now to even know what to put in a proposal. Would you have any objection to me asking you a few questions around that so I know exactly what to put in your proposal? Boom, done. That's it.
Okay, so let's say they're happy to have a conversation with you. You have a great conversation. You use ASQ, you ask a lot of questions, you get lots of information. You have the information you need to make a suggestion to them, to propose to them. Do you send out proposals via email? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so the way I handle it, before I send any proposal, right, there's a question that I ask. It's always about questions. So I say, Jeff, so now that we know you want to get to, your problem is A, B, C. You want to get to X, Y, Z. We've agreed we're going to do this, and this to make sure you achieve those goals. And the way you told me that your board or whoever makes decisions is that you need to see it in a proposal. That's cool. We'll put that together for you. So Jeff, just so I have better context, once you do get the proposal, how then do you go about, going through the proposal and then getting back to the person that sent it to you? What does that process look like? So I have that in my mind. So I get that out, right? And so the point is, I want a map from them as to how they use this proposal and how does that lead them to a decision. Because then I'm gonna say, okay, great. So you guys look at it, it takes you 2 days, whatever they say, and say, okay, so would it be appropriate then for us to just schedule time to make sure I can answer any additional questions you might have, say in the next 2 days, sometime in the afternoon? Boom, done. All right, I'm not letting them off the hook until I get Jeff, you always say this. You're always selling the next meeting. You say this a lot. So I will tell you right now, it's in my DNA. I don't remember the last time I left a situation without selling the next meeting or the next interaction of some kind. I don't remember the last time I did that.
Yeah, exactly right. The challenge with sending a proposal, and look, I send proposals too. Look, I used to have a hard and fast rule. I don't send proposals. I will meet with you. We'll talk about the proposal. That way you'll have all the information you need to make an intelligent decision whenever you're ready. But if you don't want to meet with me, I'm not going to put together a proposal for you. I said it a little more elegantly, but I'm not looking to waste my time. I'm not in the proposal writing business. I'm in the sales training and sales coaching business. I'm in the business of helping people increase their sales. I'm not a proposal writer. Now, I do that as part of closing deals, but that's not my job. And if you're not going to give me the time to review the proposal with you, to answer any questions, to have a further conversation, then I know what's going to happen, Dean. I send you a proposal, you're going to turn to the last page because that's where the price is. And that's the only thing you're going to look at. You're not going to look at the 12 pages where I laid out exactly what we're going to do. So I'm not sending a proposal. And here's a trick, and I don't like the word trick I use. If somebody really is pushing it, I'll say, great, I'll be happy to send you a proposal. And I send them the proposal without the price page.
Right.
You want to know what the investment's going to be? We're going to need to chat about that.
We're going to chat about it. Yeah. Sure. That totally makes sense. I love that too.
Yep. All right. So let's take a couple of questions because when my previous guest canceled on me, I said, well, maybe we'll do a training this week. And what questions do you guys have? A couple of our members came up with them. I'd love to run them by you. Larry Weiss, who's my favorite phone guy, said, we have 3 almost in quotation marks, almost clients right now who keep giving us the verbal okay, but cannot seem to get around to signing on the dotted line. We've made the proposals, built the relationships, and gotten all the way up to, oh yeah, we're definitely going to go ahead with you. Call me tomorrow and we'll get it done. We make that appointment, we call it the agreed time, and then it's the same thing, different day. It's not unusual in our business, and inevitably, these deals eventually close. In parentheses, he said one took literally 7 years. But this behavior seems to be getting more and more prevalent. Maybe the economy? It would be great to pick up some Jeff tips, and let's say Jeff and Dean tips, on how we can help prospects who've already made the so-called verbal commitment to actually pull the trigger and sign. So what does Larry do when somebody's kind of giving them their own? They seem interested. They said that, yes, we're ready to go, but they just won't pull the trigger.
Yeah. So I read that too myself, and it sparked something for me, like, a training that I want to do. And Jeff, I think this is a part where what you said before, I think, is in the right vein. I mean, not just that you're not sending proposals, but about not wanting to waste your time, right? And so, what in a situation like this, there's several ways you can handle it, but the most important thing to understand is to always get context around how people make decisions. So let's just say it's not a one person decision, it's multiple people that have to make the decision, right? Before I leave the room or that call where they say yes, they're going to do it, one of the things I want to know is, why aren't they doing it today? So I'd say, so when you say call you tomorrow and we'll get it done, Jeff, just so I have better context, what exactly would we get done tomorrow? Right? So I want you to tell me what exactly we're going to get done tomorrow, right? And I'm going to ask it that way, in that low voice, like, I need to understand that a little bit better, kind of, right? And so when I get that answer, it will tell me exactly how I need to respond next. But I have to respond with confidence. So let's say they say, "Oh yeah, tomorrow we're gonna sign the proposal, right? We're gonna sign tomorrow." If they say that, I say, "So Jeff, if you've already told me that this is something that could work for you. You say you definitely want to go ahead. Would you mind, help me understand why we're not just signing it today and just, step right into the process? What's actually holding you back right now? I need to know." And so those are the types of ways I would handle it. I would get them to tell me everything that's going on, get to the bottom line of what's happening before I leave the room. And most of the times, I believe that works. I mean, it's worked for me, certainly worked for my clients a lot when they ask those types of questions. The thing is, you can't let people off the hook with "we'll get it done." It's too ambiguous for me. What are we getting done? How are we getting it done? How then will you make your decision? What does that process look like? Paint me a picture so I understand exactly, what's going to happen next. Things like that. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of calling people out, not being, confrontational, but, like you said, what's in the way of getting it done today? And I'm a big fan of, if somebody's blowing you off like that after they said, "Yeah, we'll get on a call, we'll do it tomorrow," or whatever that is, let them off the hook. "Hey, you know what, Dean, if there's something going on here that is causing you to not want to move forward, just let me know, because I don't want to be a pest. I'll still like you, and if you ever change your mind, let me know. I'll be glad to do this with you. But if you're not interested in it right now, just say the words. I don't want to waste your time. I always want to make it about them. Now the truth is, I don't want to waste my time. And
Sure.
I think you'll agree, because I know you're an attitude guy. I don't want to waste my attitude, because when somebody tells me I'm going to sign this with you tomorrow, it's almost closed in my mind, and I'm counting it in the closed column. Not really, because I really don't put things in the closed column until their check clears my bank. But it's psychologically, I'm thinking, "Oh, I've got a deal tomorrow." And when it doesn't come through, I don't say it's devastating, but it's deflating. And now you got to build yourself back up. So I'm a big fan of calling them out and letting them off the hook.
So Jeff, before you move on, I want to ask you something about that right there. So here are the subtle differences that people make the mistake with. I always tell people that scripting is very important, but that's the structure, but you have to bring the substance.
Sure.
Now, you and I have slightly different personalities. Now, here's the thing. When you just said what you said, I believe you. See, that's what I want people to understand. I know that when I said what I just said and how I said it to you, you believed me, because there's a substance behind it. There's a confidence that comes with that. And so I didn't want that to get lost for everybody that's listening right now. Whatever response you choose, it needs to be one that comes with the power of confidence and substance, so that the person knows you are serious about your business. That's key.
Yeah. And when I say I don't want to waste my time, I don't want to waste their time either. My time is more valuable to me than theirs is, but I don't want to waste their time. And when I say I don't want to be a pest, I'm serious. I don't want to be.
I don't want to be a pest.
If you don't want it, if you don't think that I really have what you need, just say so.
Just say the word.
It's not a problem for me.
It's all good.
Or if there's something in the way, we're waiting for a big check from our client, we can't pay you until whatever the deal is, just tell me. And I think you'll agree, if we've established a relationship up front and we're being ethical and human, people should feel free to open up to us and tell us.
They should feel free to open up to you after you've done that. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. The other thing, and I think Larry is still with us. Maybe you can put this in the comments, Larry. I think Larry only does business fairly locally here on Long Island, maybe in New York City. I don't think he's traveling across the country. I could be wrong. Please let us know, Larry.
Okay.
But if you're doing business locally and somebody says, let's do it tomorrow, I'll say, great, I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. Why don't I drop by at 2:00? Because it's far harder to get rid of me when I stop by your place than if I call you and you don't want to pick up the phone for some reason.
Correct. 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Let's go with another question. I believe I'm correct when I say you have sales management experience. Yes?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Manage many teams.
That's what I thought. So Ira Spector, who's a friend and the vice president of sales at Price Paper and Schwein, he asks, what about accountability? I always watch the numbers, but don't always know what to do when my reps aren't achieving their KPIs. What do you do when your reps aren't achieving their KPIs?
Well, so this to me has always been a twofold thing. So let's go with the first piece. One of the reasons I believe that, and the most successful sales team I've ever had the honor of leading was when I worked at that big, company called L'Oreal. And I had a team of like 16, at one point, probably like 19 people. Now, we always crushed our KPIs, but the reason is because I was never responsible for the KPIs alone. Let me explain that. We always decided together what the KPIs were. Okay. And what that means is say, hey, look, the company set this budget, blah, 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 blah for us, and these are the 5 areas that we need to crush it in. Right. So what do you guys think we can do? And we would have a full blown contentious engagement. It would be like all out, sometimes kind of like war, but we'd ultimately come to a point where we all agree. And the one thing we always agreed to was that I'm not responsible for mine. Colleen's not responsible for hers. Michael's not responsible for his. Each and every single one of you is responsible for everyone else's KPI on this team, and you need to hold each other accountable. Every one of you, every one of us. Nobody is above the fray. And so we had that mentality going in, right? So we rarely ever missed the KPI. But if somebody's consistently missing the KPI, we did one of 2 things, right? It's either like retrain or reroute. Retrain or reroute, right? So that means you're either in or you're out, but we retrain you, right? And we have to make sure that you still believe in the core values of our team. Like, what does that stand for? Like, if you don't have any standards for your team, like if they don't have like a standard where everyone is of the same accord, you're going to have people all over the place in terms of accountability. And a lot of times, Jeff, when sales teams are missing the KPIs, it's because they have a team of individuality and not a team that's about the team. That I can promise you. I've seen it happen too often on sales teams. It's a team of individuals and not a full team working together towards the same goal.
Wow. So when you say you've created teams where everybody's responsible for everybody KPIs. So if you have one person or 2 people on the team who aren't pulling their weight, are you saying the team actually gets involved and encourage them or train
Yes.
them? Whatever.
They'll say, hey, Jeff, man, I noticed that your numbers are kind of lagging. What's going on, man? What do you need help with? What's happening? What's in your way? And they would do it. They would actually get in there with their teammates and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk this through. I mean, oftentimes, Jeff, I wouldn't even really hear about certain problems, until it was like dire, like something was major, like, okay, Dean, we can't figure this out. Can you help us out? What do we do? Kind of a thing. That's how it was on that particular team. I've had other teams that, struggled with the whole KPI situation. And unfortunately, Jeff, I've had to let people go so that the rest of the team can not just survive, but thrive. Sometimes you've got to cut the head off of someone, and sometimes that gets people to fall in line. It's like, okay, we're serious about these standards, and it's okay if you're not up to these standards. That's totally fine. You just can't be part of this team.
Yep. That's right in line with what I was thinking when I read the question. I know Ira well. He's actually a personal friend besides, being a member of the Sales Pro Network. And I know him for many years. And I don't know this to be a fact. I'm just throwing this out there as a maybe, only because I know him and because I've trained sales managers just like you have and been one myself. It's possible Ira's being too nice a guy. And quite often I find, because I train both salespeople and sales managers, I find that sales managers are very concerned with being liked and creating this fun atmosphere. And look, I want to be liked. I want a fun atmosphere too, and I do my very best to create it. One of the things I do is outsource sales management. I manage sales teams. So I want everybody to have a good time. But the bottom line is, you, or in this case, Ira, as the manager, you're ultimately responsible. It's not your sales team that's responsible for the sale.
Right.
It's you. And his boss, who I also know, should be holding Ira responsible. It's not his job to worry about the sales team. It's Ira's job. And so you could either be nice all the time and happy and jolly and fun and having a great time, which is what I want to do. But at times you do have to be the boss. You do have to be the manager. It's just like having children.
Yeah, exactly.
All I ever wanted to do, and my kids are now 21 and 20, all I ever wanted to do was just play with them and have a great time and, never have a harsh word or anything like that. And for the most part, I was able to do that because my kids also knew that if they pushed me past a certain point, daddy was coming out.
That's right.
The guy with the harsher voice. I don't yell. I don't scream. I never hit my kids, of course, but I was willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah, the consequences.
To get them to, we'll call it their KPIs, not that I have KPIs for my kids, because I always felt this. My job is not to be a nice guy to my kids or their friend. And I am a nice guy to my kids, and I'm honored that they consider me their friend. But my job was to turn them into magnificent human beings who are going to, and I like your word, thrive. And sometimes that means you have to say no, and you have to teach a lesson. I think it's the same thing with salespeople. It's time to come on in here, Dean. We have to have a chat. What's going on? You and I agreed that you were going to do these 7 key performance indicators, and you see that you're falling down on 3 of them, and that's affecting your paycheck. Tell me what's going on. What do we need to do? How can I support you? What are you willing to do? It's time to have those, what sometimes are difficult conversations. Yeah. Because unless you're willing to have those, and many sales managers in my experience are just not, they don't want to deal with it. They'd rather fire somebody quickly than try to solve the problem. But it's not comfortable when you have to tell somebody you're underperforming, and I may have to let you go at some point. And I'm with you. I don't think you're doing anybody a favor when you keep a salesperson on who's non-performing. If you've done your best to help them and they've tried their best, if they haven't tried their best, time to go. Or if I haven't done my best, it's time for me to wake up and realize I got to do my job. But sometimes you just can't be the nice guy.
Can't do it.
It may be a generational thing, but today's sales management, the younger people are look, I'm empowering too, and I want to play and have fun, but sometimes it's time to be serious.
Sometimes it's time to be serious. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when my obsession for your success exceeds your obsession for your own success, we can't play together anymore.
Yep. And I love that about you, because I've seen you say that in more than one post. You're obsessed with your client's success.
That's right.
Absolutely. By the way, Larry says we mostly do local business, but we have clients around the world. Well, if you've got somebody in Germany, I guess you can't tell them that you're going to drop in the
drop by.
Larry, I hope Dean's advice helped you, and Ira, I hope it helped you too. And by the way, if you guys who are watching, if you have any other questions for Dean, please put them in the comments, and I will pass them along. Dean, I saw, and I didn't know this before, and maybe I've made a mistake, but you're also involved with a company called First Class Business. What's that about?
Yeah, so First Class Business is a company that helps organizations or individuals that are at a certain level in their expertise to scale beyond where they are right now. So First Class Business handles budgets of up to $150,000 for scaling. So it's $50,000 to $150,000. So bring an organization in, and we help them to scale beyond where they are now. So So First Class Business provides a full-blown team, and they fill certain spots in your business, from all the way from CEO on down to directors and assistants, designers, copywriting, all of those things. So First Class Business is basically a team for an organization that's ready to scale. They give you we give you a team to run your business so that you can focus on the things that you want to do. And so the founder of that company is a friend of mine, known him for the last 2.5 years or so. We were involved in another situation that didn't go that well, and then he branched off, did his own thing. We've been watching each other over the last 2 years, seeing what each other is doing. And then when the moment was right, he tapped me, said, Dean, I really need, the sales arm, to be complete at First Class Business. And I believe that you're the guy for that. And so we've been exploring that relationship as of late, and ultimately formed a partnership there. And so, there you go.
Brilliant. So much like I do sales management on an outsourced or fractional basis, you guys bring in anything they need, CEO, CFO, salesman. Got it. Okay, brilliant. Love it. I love that model. Not everybody needs a full-time, for example, CFO. I mean, their fractional CFOs are a huge business, and it can be way more cost effective to bring in somebody who's there on a fractional basis. And the other thing I find is the people who typically offer that kind of service are true experts at what they do. You can't
Yes.
be a fractional CFO unless you're a great CFO.
Right.
You can't be a fractional sales manager unless you really know how to manage salespeople. So that's brilliant. Love that. Also, I know that you were recently in Sweden training a team. How did you get a gig in Sweden? And is training people in Sweden different than training people in the US?
Yes, and yes. So the company that is for it, they're in America too, right? So, but it was born in Sweden. The company was born out of Sweden, and so that's where the bulk of the people at the company are. And so once a year they do this conference. So last year I actually did it then too. This year though I got censored. Which is why I don't want to say the name of the company. I got censored a little bit. Well, I got called into a meeting before the training to kind of talk about the things I could and couldn't say. I guess they thought that last year got a little bit too rambunctious. They've never seen their people interact that much. But Jeff, listen, you and I are from New York, man. And if this were happening in a New York setting, nobody would care. But they kind of cared about how that was going to go. I mean, it went well, totally fine. But I felt a little bit watered down. Like just a little like, okay, I guess I'll do it because, at this point there was a check attached to it. And so, I did what I needed to do, but yeah, but it's fun times. It's a Swedish company. They're growing here in America. It's a beauty company for professional salons. And, for some reason I'm not trying to, but I can't get away from that industry because that's the industry that raised me. And allowed me to go off into the other 7 industries I went off into to train and coach other service providers and salespeople. But it's a fun gig.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had a guest on, I think about a year ago, and I can't remember his name, and I can't remember the name of his book. Boy, oh boy, as you get older, Dean, it gets tougher and tougher to remember stuff. But I always do a pre-interview, and he was dropping F-bombs like crazy, and I said, I've had other people on my show where they drop a bunch of F-bombs. I'm okay with it, but I just want you to know some of my audience did send me notes afterwards saying they couldn't listen anymore. They don't want to. And he goes, I do this when I'm training. I'm like, you do this in front of corporate audience? He goes, it's in my contract that I'm going to be using the F word. I have certainly crossed over the line more than once for the company and had to speak to human resources later. Say, yeah, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. I never dropped an F-bomb in front of a corporate client.
Yeah, me neither, actually. Actually, that's probably not true.
Yeah. Although when he told me he does it, I'm like, oh, maybe I should put that in my contract. That'd be a great thing. I'd love to be able to say whatever I want to. By the way, I also do stand-up comedy. That's why I went into stand-up comedy, so that I could just say whatever I wanted on a stage, because you do have to be somewhat cautious in front of a corporate audience.
Yeah.
You brought it up before that you've done a lot of work with, because you came up in the salon industry. Is that why you specialized for a long time? I know you do way more than salon business now, right? You're working with all kinds of companies.
Yep. So I work with service providers and sales professionals in the service industry, service-based sales professionals. And the reason why service-based is because everything I've ever done has been service-based. So I don't do product-based salespeople. And I have nothing against them. It's just, I'd be lying if I said that's my expertise. So wherever you provide a service, wherever you sell a service, I'm your guy. And the reason is because those are the situations I find where you get to build the greatest relationships, and that's how you serve people, right? And so I do that. Obviously, the obvious reasons for being in the beauty industry this long is because, again, it's where I grew up. I mean, the beauty industry is what gave me the engine for the car that I already had. They gave me the engine for it.
Makes sense. Yeah. I don't have the beauty experience that you do, but I was very fortunate to work with TG for a while, and they're just fun people. They have a different attitude. The salon business is fascinating, anyways, because it's so physical. Your hairdresser gets intimately involved with you. Well, I guess not yours anymore, and mine not that much. But it's fascinating because it's such an intimate thing, and it was really a lot of fun to work with them. In fact, they took me to Cancun for their annual convention. It was the best convention I've ever seen. I think it was 3 or 4 days. First of all, being in Cancun doesn't suck to do.
Doesn't suck, right?
But
they know how to have fun.
They spent gazillions on. I mean, there were runway models and people cutting hair-ons. It was the greatest show I've ever seen. What are some of the challenges that a hair salon has when they're selling?
So there's a lot of fear in salons when they're selling. So the big thing is they don't want to sound salesy or feel pushy because they're artists. I'm an artist, I'm an artist. And whenever you're an artist, you have this aversion for sales. And so what I've been able to do over the years is to teach them that, look, sales isn't a dirty word, right? It's not a dirty word, but there's an art to how you approach sales. And so when I teach, when I teach sales, I teach the what was going on? Sorry about that. Somebody's trying to call me on Facebook as we're talking. But when I teach salon owners and the service providers inside a salon how to sell, there's no such thing as selling that's happening there. They're educating. So what we do is to say you're going to educate your guests on what you're doing. And I teach them this one framework that changes the game. And it's called PTGT, Permission to Go There framework. And it's simply something like this. Hey, Jeff, just so you know, when I'm completing your service today, based on what we agreed on, I'm going to be using a very specific regimen of products to help us achieve your look. When I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you what they are, why I'm using them, and how you need to use them when you take them home. Is that okay with you? Yeah. And then you do it. And the sale's actually pretty much over right there because Jeff gave me permission to do all of those things. And so it's not awkward when I'm doing it anymore. And that right there has created so many six-figure stylists and just changed the game for them when I do that.
Wow. Yeah. When I was working with TG, it was really, they were selling to the salon. They were selling hair coloring to the salon. So it's a different sale. But by the way, I do product sales. So whenever you have somebody like that, I'm your man, Dean.
I'll send it your way.
Fair enough. Let's talk about a subject that I think is near and dear to most salespeople's hearts, prospecting. I know you have certain things that you do and don't do, but for most salespeople, what methods are you suggesting and teaching to your clients to help them develop more prospects?
So here's something that people think is dead. Dial for dollars. Pick up the freaking phone, man. Like, I don't really look. If you pick up the phone and you ask the right question, people will see you. I mean, look, if I made 20 phone calls a day and I got 2 appointments out of it, why is that not worth it? If I did that even 3 days a week, I have 6 appointments for the week and I could close 2 of those 6. I mean, pick up the phone. That's the number one thing I tell people right now. Go get on Google, put in your zip code and put in the type of business you're looking for and start dialing. You don't even need anyone to help you with that. And it still works. I promise. Just did it this week. Still works, right? So that's number one. Number 2 is you need to have the proper script. So you need proper structure and you bring the substance to the script. Don't just call. I'll put it like this. People in my inbox. Hey, Dean, thanks for connecting. How you doing today? Like you care. Like you actually care. And then when I say I'm doing well, you please go, oh, we provide, and they vomit on my inbox. Like, get out of here. Stop doing that. No, you have to connect for real. Right? You got to connect for real. Right? I mean, for me, when I call, it's like, hey, I was on Google looking at these types of businesses like yours. And I went to your website. Beautiful. Loved the colors. Loved your gallery. I mean, it was amazing. But I did that. And I'll point out something that was there. And I say, hey, by the way, my name is Dean. I'm just with Epics Academy. And I was just wondering, would your company have any objection to taking a look at some possible hidden blind spots in your current sales systems that are costing you money? That's it.
Yeah, so many people. And by the way, last week's guest was Wendy Weiss, the queen of cold calling. So many people don't want to pick up the phone. They think it's dead. They think it never worked. It never will work, except I still consider it the most cost-effective and time-efficient way to fill your calendar with appointments if you don't have enough. But you've got to do it well. I agree. You've got to be scripted. You've got to be prepared for when they say no. And you also have to understand that it is harder to get appointments than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago on the phone. platform. The numbers you just said are, I've got a coaching client. He dials for dollars an hour every single day. And I know that because he texts me every night to let me know that he did it. It's, you know, he by the way, he came up with it. He goes, would you be okay if I just text you every night to let you know I need some accountability? I'm like, you beat me to it, my friend. That's a perfect.
Yeah.
So every night he texts me. I called for an hour. I got 0 appointments. I got 1 appointment. I got 2 appointments. So this guy cold calls 5 hours a week. By the way, he's not just a salesperson. He's a sales manager. He's got a lot of things to do every day, just like we all do. But he makes sure every single day he cold calls for an hour. This guy gets an average of 4 appointments a week. 5 hours of calling, 4 appointments. Now, you may look at that and go, oh, that's a lot of time to only get 4 appointments, except like you said, what if let's say your closing ratio is 25%, you're closing a deal a week.
Exactly.
Let's say in half of that, you're still closing a deal every other week, and depending on the dollar volume of your sale, that may be enough. I do think, though, that cold calling is not enough alone. I think it's in conjunction with using email, using LinkedIn. I know you don't, because your business is almost 100% referral based, but you got to be doing it all. At least you should be doing anything that you're willing to do that will actually work for you. So some people, I'm not cold calling. I'd rather live in my car. I like teaching and I just don't like doing it.
Right.
But that's why I'm so active on LinkedIn, why I'm big on getting referrals, why I go to a networking group regularly that provides me with a lot of business. You got to be doing something, because, you know, I think that salespeople tend to forget, or they don't want to remember, that anytime you stop prospecting, somewhere down the line, you're not going to be able to make any money.
You're not going to be able to make the number. And you know what, Jeff? Look, I don't actually enjoy cold calling that much. Probably like most people don't. But I mean, I've just learned how to do it because I had to, right? I mean, the salon business, when you go door to door, like, you know, B2B, is a cold calling business. And they're actually working when you knock on their door, which is the worst time that you could knock on the door, right? But you have to master that. So here's the thing. If you're that busy and you really don't want to do it, look, outsource it. Train your VAs. If you want VAs to actually produce for you, stop dropping into people's inbox on Messenger and have them dial. So get a good English speaking, no disrespect, but if you work in America, get a good English speaking person, even if they live in the Philippines or wherever they live, just make sure they can speak proper English, right? And get them to dial for you, give them the script. I promise you, they'll master it. And you know what? They get paid probably like $1 an hour when they're there. Pay them $4 an hour. Have them work 4 hours a day for you. I will gladly pay a VA $20 a day to dial for me and bring me 2-3 appointments a week. Gladly.
I'll do better than $20 a day, because you're right. They get paid peanuts. I mean, that's why you can get a VA for $4 an hour, $8 an hour. But
exactly.
I'd rather say, you know what? I'll pay you $20 an hour. I want you to be thrilled because I want it to come through in your voice. You know, you don't have to sit on the phone if you don't want to. You can absolutely pay somebody to do it. I do believe that nobody cares about your appointments more than you do, so it's better if you do it yourself. But from a time-saving standpoint, go pay somebody to do it. Whatever you're going to do.
Worst case scenario, right? Pay somebody to do it, but don't stop prospecting. Don't stop. I mean, it's crazy to me that any salesperson or service provider could not be prospecting in some way, shape, or form. You just got to do it. It's part of the game.
You used to say, and I'm taking this right from something I read, shed the exhaustion, worry, fear, and overwhelm now. You're just one 15-minute rapid results call away from balance, peace, confidence, and freedom. I saw it and I went, whoa, that's a strong offer. Do you still offer rapid results calls, and what are they?
Yeah, so a rapid results call is basically, I still offer them. And rapid results call are an audit of what's going on in your world right now. It's a really simple audit. I ask very specific questions, right? And typically it's like 4 questions. And sometimes those questions kind of lead into other questions depending on what you say, right? So it's the first question out of the gate is something like, hey, so Jeff, paint me a picture here, right? If for whatever reason, you were able to get what you wanted, right? And you and I sitting in a coffee shop 12 months from now, looking back, what would need to have happened for you to believe that you've achieved total success? What would need to have happened for you personally and professionally for you to say, yo, so glad I made this decision? So that's the first question out of the gate. And people have to stop, pause, and think, right? So I'm auditing what's going on with them to see where they are. And then I'll say something like, so what's the reason you don't have that yet? Like, why don't you have it yet? Right? And then it goes into, so what have you tried before? What resources aren't you leveraging right now? If you don't have it yet, what have you done that's not working? Or, where are you with all of that? And they tell me. And then I'll say something like, well, This is where you are. Recap it really well and say, does that sound about right to you? And I say, so would it be appropriate for me to share with you now how I think I might be able to help you? Not certain if I can yet, but I'd like to share how I can. What do you think? And they go, yeah, absolutely, please. But the questions are so deep on that rapid results audit, it literally takes 10 minutes to actually go through that. By the time we hit minute 15, we probably end up going 30 minutes because the person wants to know how I can help them. And that's what a rapid results call is.
Yeah,
I just gave y'all the secret, y'all.
I love how gentle that last question is. You know, would it be appropriate if I share with you how I might be able to help you?
I always transition. Guys, all right. If you take nothing else out of this, always get the prospect's permission to transition to the next phase. You recap what just happened, make sure they're nodding, and they say, so Jeff, would now be an appropriate time then for me to share with you blah, 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 depending on where you are in the conversation. Always ask permission to transition.
And I also love that first question. By the way, I ask that on every, well, not with coaching clients, but with maybe I should start, with training clients and outsourced sales management clients. Certainly, I always ask this question. You know, let's say you and I are sitting in your office 6 months from now. And what would have to have happened over the last 6 months for you to say, wow, I am so glad I decided to work with you, Jeff? Because when they answer that question, they're telling you exactly what they're looking for. And all you have to do is say, assuming you can provide that, all you have to do is go, great, that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. I like to let people sell themselves. Look, I'm not ashamed of being a salesperson. I'm proud of being a salesperson. I think we make the economy move, but I don't need to smack people in the face with it. I'd rather let them sell themselves than me have to talk them into something, because I don't believe you and I, with all our skill and experience over the years, we're not good enough to talk anybody into anything that they don't want, don't need, or can't afford. And I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I'd rather find more prospects to speak to so that some of them will go, I need some Dean Forbes. I need some Jeff Goldberg.
There you go.
Got it. As you know, I always look at guest LinkedIn feeds to get ideas for topics of conversation. And I saw about a year ago, you had a post in there with a picture of King Leonidas from 300.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest 300 fan. I love that movie. I've watched it a gazillion times. This is Sparta. I just love that. So it did catch my attention. And the actual post was not about Leonidas. It was about how to tell epic, EPIC, epic stories that make an impact. I love that idea. So why are epic stories important when we're selling, and how can we be better storytellers?
Yeah, so I think the way you have to, you need to know the steps in what makes an epic story. And what I've done, I'm a movie buff. In case y'all don't know, I'm a movie buff. I watch all different types of movies, especially like actions, epics, historicals. I watch all that. And epic stories always get to the emotions of people. And that's how people buy. The reason why you have to learn how to tell great stories is because people buy based on emotion. Right? It's a psychological, emotional thing. That's how they buy. So when you tell great stories, it makes sense to people. Because you can get trapped in what I call technobabble. You get trapped in technobabble, and people check out and I don't get it. It doesn't relate to them in their lives. And so if you understand the structure of a great story, where you talk about the hero, like every story has like a hero in it, right? So who's the hero? Who's the main character? And what's his problem? That I call like the villain, right? The villain of this particular story is a person or a situation that they're going through that they need to overcome. And then what happens in that whole thing, they introduce what they call the guide, somebody who guides them along. That would be Jeff. That would be Dean. We're the guide, right? But here's a mistake that most people make when they're the guide. When you're the guide, you're not the hero, people. Remember this. You need to get the hero to picture him or herself as the hero in their own story, because it ain't about you. Okay, you're the guide. All right. And so you have to understand the structure of a story right there. And then you have to talk about that. How did you get over it? Like what is going to happen? What is the transformation? What's the projection? If you do this, what's going to happen later? And I always actually use what I call an imagine question. This is an ASQ question. It's called imagine question, which is, hey, Jeff, imagine you were able to achieve ABC. What would that change about your business? How would that impact your life, your children, your wife, your friends, whatever? And that right there, to me, is the anchor in the story where the person goes, yeah, I can see that for myself. So that's why it's that important. And I love to do it, especially from a stage. It's my favorite place to tell great stories.
Me too. Brilliant. So Jeff and Dean aren't the hero. We aren't Leonidas. The prospect is Leonidas.
Prospect is Leonidas. You got that right. The prospect is Leonidas. Exactly right.
Got it. Perfect. I love that. And what is the power of pursuit?
Yeah. So power of pursuit is something that I completely believe in. So you know how a lot of times they have either doubt or fear about, especially if they fall down, or they don't think they can do something inside their mind and things like that. The thing about fear and doubt is that you can do all the meditation you want. And this is my experience, right? You can do all the meditation you want. You could pray all you want. You could get on your knees all you want. Do whatever you want to do. But if you take absolutely no action, you can't get out of that headspace. You cannot get out of that headspace. I mean, look, 9,000 shots this guy missed. 26 times he was trusted to take the game-winning shot, and he missed it. Okay? Michael Jordan, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But here's what happens. If you have the courage, just enough courage to be okay with failing enough, you will eventually succeed. But you gotta pursue your dreams. You gotta pursue your obsession. You need to pursue it. Get up and pursue it. And when you do that, your confidence builds, doubt goes away, you have less fear. It's replaced by feeling free. And so that's the power of pursuit. When you pursue it, you'll become more confident, less doubtful, and less fearful. End of story.
Got it. I think we only have time for one more question. I think most salespeople and most managers would agree that in sales, mindset is crucial. It's important. I have a friend who wrote that mindset is everything and attitude is everything. I don't think it's everything, but they're important. What do you suggest we do to protect our mindset?
So what I would suggest is that you find what keeps your saw sharp. As Stephen Covey said in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Jeff, there's a reason I work out almost every day. Listen, it's not every morning that I like working out, but I like the results. It sets my mind right for the day, right? People can't upset me. They don't get under my skin. So I work out every day. I enjoy my kids. Now that my teenage daughters live with me, I enjoy them a lot. You have to find ways to enjoy the little things in life that fuel you, like stay close to the purposes or the reasons you do what you do, and your mindset will be right. And I have 3 mantras that I live by in my business right now. And that is, first of all, it's people before profit, impact before income, and service before sales. I live that through and through. And that keeps my mind right as well.
I love that, Dean. And if you have the time, I hope you'll come into the Sales Pro Network and just put those 3 things under this interview so everybody can have them. Dean, I'm sharing my screen right now. Can you tell people how they can reach you if they're interested in having a chat with you? Maybe one of those calls, maybe talk about possibly doing business.
Yeah. So best way for you to reach me right now, if you could reach me on Messenger on Facebook if you want to, no problem. Just tell me that you listened to this call with Jeff and Dean, and I will be happy to talk to you. My email is right there. It's dean@epexacademyhq.com. Epex Academy is the name of my company. It's the name of my training company, right? So it's dean@epexacademy.com. And of course, my phone number is right there. Do not bomb me on the phone unless you really want to talk to me about moving your sales forward. 239-564-5495. Easiest ways to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you for filling in last minute like this. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for making time, and thank you for generously sharing your brilliance. And I'll end as I always do, by the way. Good morning, Ray Aurora, who said hello just before we're closing. And Larry Weiss is saying, I share those same mantras. Great to hear I'm not alone. And there's a cute baby in your picture there, Larry. I'm guessing that's grandchild, maybe. Well, Larry will let us know. All right. I'll end as I always do. Thank you, Dean. And how do I end? Sales is a game of making things happen. By the way, that's not the first time that's happened. Sometimes when I'm doing a comedy show, I'll go, gosh, I forgot that joke. Does anybody know it? And that actually gets
a laugh.
It absolutely does. But sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again, Dean.
Thanks, guys.